Okay, today we're going to be doing a resistance training machine workout aimed towards basketball players. The focus for all of these is going to be generating strength and power for the essential movements in basketball, like rapid change of direction, deceleration, vertical jumping, and cutting and sprinting, which is all very prevalent in basketball.
Today we are really focusing on the lower extremity, so we're going to be focusing on the muscle groups such as the hip extensors, the knee extensors, and the knee flexors, as well as the muscles responsible for plantar flexion. We're going to be taking note of the eccentric and concentric motions here, with concentric being the shortening phase and eccentric being the muscle lengthening phase.
So for our first exercise, we chose the hack squat because it's a multi-joint large muscle exercise. It's going to target your vastus medius as well as help with knee stability and injury prevention. This is important for basketball players because of the deceleration of landing on their feet, as well as the cutting movements that they're doing within a game. Alright, so first we're going to adjust the machine's height to her height to make sure it's safe for her to use it. You can just step on. Shoulders against and that would be a good starting so that she's able to push off comfortably. So good cueing for this exercise could be make sure your knees don't bow in, as well as make sure your legs don't fully lock out, and just keep them a little bit bent for more power momentum. So for the quadriceps group, which is what this exercise is most predominantly performed for, the down phase is going to be the eccentric phase, and the up phase is going to be the concentric.
For our second exercise, we are going to be doing the leg press. This is also a large muscle multi-joint movement. It focuses on really all of the lower extremity, specifically the quads, glutes, and hamstrings. Building strength in those muscles is specifically important in basketball for all of the jumping, sprinting, and change of direction movements that'll be going on during a game or practice. Before we start, we're going to adjust the height of the machine. As you can see, this is not the correct positioning for this specific athlete. She's a little bit too tall for this, so we'd want to raise it up a little bit because her muscles are not going to be in mid-range in this position. She's not going to be able to generate enough force because her muscles are going to be short. So in this case, you would tighten it up a little bit so she has a little bit of bend in the knee. This exercise has similar cueing points as the hack squat. Make sure you don't completely lock your knees at the top, keeping a slight bend in them. And also, as it is a laying down motion on a bench, make sure you are keeping the 5 points of contact, which is your head, your butt, your upper shoulders, or your back, and your left and right feet. Okay, during this motion, it is a eccentric contraction for the quadriceps on the way down, and a concentric for the hip extensors, which is the hamstrings and the glute max on the way down, and then on the way up, the hip extensors are contracting eccentrically, and the quadriceps are contracting concentrically.
So over here we're going to be doing the hip thrust. So the primary mover for this exercise is the glute max. And this exercise is going to be really good for the explosiveness out on the court, really getting like that height for your vertical jump and really getting that power. So I'm going to set up the machine to get it ready for my basketball player. So for this exercise, the cueing points is to make sure that your knees aren't going valgus and that they are staying straight. You can have your toes held open and out of a degree to 5 to 18, as well as keeping your spine neutral and not arching your back to put more stress on your lower back. Exercise, when she is laying down on the down phase, that's going to be the eccentric contraction of the glute max, and then when she is on the up phase, that's going to be the concentric motion for the glute max.
This exercise that we're going to be doing is the lying hamstring curl. This targets the hamstring group, which is the semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and biceps femoris. This is an important muscle group for basketball because it's important for stabilizing, decelerating after landing, and power for jumps. So for the way we're going to want to set this machine up, we're going to want to make sure that her knee axis of rotation lines up with the machine axis of rotation, and then we're going to have the pad set so it rests on the back of her ankles and feet here. And the cueing for this exercise would be to keep a neutral spine throughout the entire all the way to the cervical spine. Make sure the back doesn't arch or lift up at all, and making sure that at the end we're extending as far as we can without locking the knees. And this up phase is going to be the concentric phase for the hamstrings, and as she goes down, she is controlling the eccentric.
The adductor machine, it's a small muscle group exercise that's going to be targeting your adductor musculature. This is good for helping prevent injuries in basketball players in the groin, which is very common, and it's also good for building power, especially with changing directions, which is what is most needed on the court. For this exercise, you're just going to move this to wherever they feel comfortable for their end range. Good. So for this exercise, some cueing is keeping their back neutral onto the padding, not rounding their shoulders, as well as just keeping it slow and controlled throughout the whole motion. So as she moves into the abduction motion, it's going to be eccentric of the adductors, and then once she moves into the adduction, it's going to be a concentric contraction.
So the last exercise is going to be either a seated or a standing calf raise. This is going to be the smallest muscle single joint movement, so we placed it at the end of the workout. If you want to bias the soleus muscle in the calves, you can use a seated machine, and if you want to bias the gastrocnemius, you can use a standing machine. The calves are highly important in basketball for generating power at the ankle and generating strength for plantar flexion that is highly involved in the jumping motions in basketball. So the first thing we want to do is adjust the height of the machine. Clearly this is going to be too tall for my basketball player, so I'm going to bring it down slightly. And we'll see how that is. All right, that looks good. So now she's going to start her reps. Important cueing for this exercise is to make sure you're standing fully erect with an upright posture, and you have your heels off of the machine, only balancing on your toes. Okay, the concentric phase is going to be the up phase where she's doing plantar flexion, and then the eccentric phase is going to be the down phase as she moves into dorsiflexion.
Okay, so for this workout, we chose the scheme focusing on power, which is going to be 3 to 5 reps from 75% to 85% of your athlete's 1 rep max.
And we also, we started with larger muscle groups with multi-joint exercises, and then we regressed down to have our last exercise being more of an accessory movement at single joint. And then we're really focusing all of these muscles are very involved with power and stability in the sport of basketball.